Hello and welcome to NPC Next Portable Console. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Fesses. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know what? There's somebody missing. We're missing our Brendon. Where is Brendon?
We are missing the other American. We're missing the New Yorker.
We are.
Can you do a New York accent?
Oh, no. I don't even want to try. The New Yorkers will hate me if I do. It'd be even worse than if I did an Italian accent.
Your Italian accent would be like, yeah, I'm Italian. That's what you
me.
That's John. Okay, John does. Let's never ask John to do accents again. Lesson learned.
No.
We are without Brendon. Brendon will join us again in the next episode of NPC. We miss you, Brendon. We love you, Brendon. We cannot wait for you to come back. John, you wanna mention a few things before we get into the main topics of the show, I think?
I do. We just have a little housekeeping, which is I wanted to mention to folks that we are doing bonus material on YouTube. This show is both an audio-only podcast as well as a video podcast on YouTube. And we've started doing a little bit of extra stuff, extra material. You'll find it in a playlist of NPC bonus material. And right now it's just a short video I did unboxing and showing off my Nintendo Switch Lite Hyrule Edition, which I got a couple of weeks ago now. But we'll be adding more to that in the future. And I know that I think when we had our last episode, you said that you might be tempted into getting a Switch Lite, and I want people to know just how quickly that happened after.
Okay. You want to put me on blast here? Okay. I get it.
How long was it before Federico bought a Hyrule Edition Switch Lite after we recorded last? I think less than 24 hours.
Look, okay, it was less than 24 hours, right? So what do you want from me? There was a big Comic-Con in Rome, and they had it, and I actually got it for 30 euros less than Amazon. So big savings,
I will tell you, what's interesting? It's not available on Amazon in the US.
There you go.
I got mine from Best Buy, and I think you obviously can get it direct from Nintendo, but I don't know why it's not on Amazon yet. Amazon US does not have a lot of Nintendo stuff.
Amazon US, whenever I go to Amazon US, because I got to buy something that cannot be I cannot buy from Italy, but can be shipped from Amazon US to Italy. The US website is so strange in subtle. It's in subtle, very subtle ways different from Amazon Italy. I don't know, the buttons are different. Sometimes you click on an item and you have multiple purchasing options, and it's not clear which one is the real one. It's so much more confusing than Amazon Italy. Amazon Italy is a little more basic from that point of view. I don't know. I'm sure they will ruin the Italian website eventually. Did you know, John, that occasionally I also purchase stuff from Amazon Japan?
Oh, yeah, I think I did know that about you. I have
without being sure what the button said.
That's a risky one.
But it got delivered. So it worked. They didn't charge me twice, so it worked.
I think the only Amazon store I've used besides the US one is the UK one, because my son lives in Ireland.
Amazon UK is good. I've used Amazon Germany. I've used all the Amazons, really, to be fair.
You're like a EU Amazon guy. Well, you know what? This is not the Amazon shopping.
This is not an Amazon show, but we are still going to talk about things we're maybe going to end up buying. So we have a segment now that you titled Retro OLED News. And it's really just about the new console, the new upcoming handheld from Ayn. It's the Ayn Odin Portal. So this is not, it's called Portal. It's not a PlayStation streaming device. This is a new Android-based handheld by Ayn, the makers of our dearly beloved, the Odin 2 and the Odin 2 Mini. This Portal is a 7-inch, so they're going up 1 inch in size. It's a 7-inch AMOLED 120 hertz display. This is a chunkier, bigger, larger handheld that they've done. It's got the same system on a chip than the Odin 2 and the Odin Mini. It's the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So they're not using the Gen 3. They're still using the Gen 2. Literally the same chip as the other Odins that we previously covered on the show. Unclear what the battery size is going to be. We still don't have details on the battery. But I think it's a very fascinating handheld in the sense that what I find interesting is that Ayn, they're going to they're going to end up in a spot where they can offer the same system on a chip in 3 sizes, right? They're going to have the 5-inch, they're going to have the 6-inch, and the 7-inch. Now, the 7-inch, I mean, if you just look at the renders, I believe we haven't seen real product photos yet, just renders. And by the way, quick tangent. Did you know, John, that apparently, like Ayn, they discuss the colors that they want to do pretty much in the open on their Discord community, and like people send them feedback. And for example, yesterday Brendon shared in our chat a version of Portal that was silver with colored buttons, sort of reminiscent of the silver GameCube. But just this morning, I opened Reddit and I saw a post from someone saying, after feedback in the Discord, Ayn has tweaked the silver color, and so it's no longer going to have colored buttons anymore. They're just going to be silver buttons as well. And I think it's interesting that they have this back and forth with the community about color feedback before they actually go into production. I mean, can you imagine if Apple did that? Can you imagine if Apple had a Discord and you could log in and say, Apple, this color sucks?
Yeah, where are the bright colors for the Pro models, Apple? Come on. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I actually, with the black one, thought that I would probably like it more if the buttons weren't colored. That one has colorful buttons too.
The black with the color buttons, I think it looks kind of cheap. I don't know. I think so
too. I think they should be white or maybe silvery.
They should be
something like that.
Yeah, white, like Steam Deck style.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about this 7-inch?
I think it looks beautiful. It's got like edge-to-edge glass that goes across the entire face, not just the screen, so it looks a lot more sleek and modern than I think the other models that they have. And I could see the battery going either way on this. I could either see them doing a battery that's roughly the same size as the 2, but thinner, so that the entire device, because it's got a bigger screen, is a little thinner than the 2. Or I could see them going with something that's similar in thickness to the 2, and as a result, having a bigger battery. Although with the OLED, I don't think they probably need as much power to run the screen as they might with an LCD, right? That's why I kind of feel like maybe we're going to get a similar size battery to the 2, but because they can spread it out across the back of a bigger screen, it might make for a thinner device overall.
It might make for a thinner device and a lighter device also. Like it could be a lot lighter.
Or just better balance too.
Yeah,
right?
better balance. I'm very keen to see what they do. Obviously, like you give me OLED, I'm gonna take OLED on all the things, right? OLED 120. I think it's so funny because like this is gonna be largely an emulation device, right? I cannot think of a single game that's gonna run at 120 when you're emulating older consoles.
That's true, except that I mean it is Android, so
it is Android, so it could be useful for Android games or streaming.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that like PlayStation Remote Play, for example, you cannot stream at 120 hertz, but NVIDIA GeForce Now can.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, exactly. You can go do faster with that.
If you have a good internet connection, really good internet connection, imagine streaming like 1080, 120 on an OLED handheld.
Yeah, well, and the 2 has Wi-Fi. The 2 has Wi-Fi 7, so I expect that this will have Wi-Fi 7 too. So, unlike a lot of handhelds that are stuck in like the Wi-Fi 5 range still, Ayn's really recognized that people are using these for streaming, and Wi-Fi 7 makes that a lot smoother.
I think this is also some interesting repercussions for the Ayn Neo Pocket Evo, which we mentioned before.
Which is a great looking device, at least the renders that I don't know if those are real. The pictures that we've seen are not just renders, but yeah.
Great looking device. Also another one that is sort of participating in this trend of all glass front, which on one hand, they look amazing. On the other, I'm not so sure about durability, over the next.
It could be heavier too.
It could be heavier too.
With more glass.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure, but it looks great. However, I would be shocked if Ayn with the Odin Portal does not beat on pricing whatever ANEO is going to end up doing with the Pocket Evo, because ANEO has a tendency to, I don't want to say overpriced, because their devices are really good looking and really premium feeling, but
They are.
there's a
They're very
scenario,
expensive.
there's a world in which you can get, I mean, I'm just imagining, right? I'm just spitballing here, but I could see being able to buy an Odin Portal for sure less than 400, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think
Right?
so. And stuff is pretty competitive. It's expensive, but it's also got really good tech in it. So I think for what you're getting, it's actually a pretty good value.
Yeah. Can we talk about like this name is so funny that we have in our notes. Can you
What's
tell
that?
me more about muOS Banana?
OS banana. Well, this is the OS for the Anbernic devices, right?
Okay.
It's Mustard OS essentially, and this is the banana release. They have a theme and they have their community pick the name for each major release of the
Can
OS.
you do a banana mustard? Is that even possible?
I think that would be pretty gross, Federico, but sure, why not? You do you. I
No, no,
don't
no.
want
I'm
to put
just.
mustard on my banana.
I mean, you can try.
I know. The next one, by the way, is going to be Pixie. I just read in their Discord the other day.
Pixie.
Pixie, Pixie, because they voted on hairstyles, and Pixie is a hairstyle.
Nice.
So that's a fun fact right there. This is a pretty big update. I think I would describe the changes primarily as quality of life stuff. Because there's a very long list of fixes and updates, and most of the updates are to little things in settings, that kind of stuff. The two big things, at least from my perspective, that I was really happy to see was support for the Anbernic RGXX40V, which is
Okay.
the big screen vertical
The Game Boy looking one.
Game
Yeah.
Boy-like handheld. So there's support for that. And they've also got a setting for moving configuration files and game saves to a secondary micro SD, because
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. A lot of Anbernic devices, really the majority of them, all the ones that I have, support 2 micro SD cards. So you can put the OS on one, on a smaller one, and then you can have a bigger one for your game files. And until now, muOS could not have anything but the ROMs on that secondary micro SD card. Now you can have various configuration settings for the OS, as well as the save data and that sort of thing on the secondary card. So in the future, when you update, it'll be a lot easier to update without kind of having to redo all those settings, because this update is one where you have to flash that micro SD card. So
Right.
if you're going to upgrade, you should especially if you're only on one micro SD card, you should back up your games first and your saves and all that stuff, and then flash the micro SD card. I did it the other night, and I'll tell you, the thing that I've really come to realize with some of these retro handhelds, the cheaper ones in this, the under $100 category, things like what Anbernic is making, is it's these community OSs that have really made the difference for me, and the ones that I come back to over and over again. And muOS is really my favorite, I think, right now. And so I've been primarily playing games on Anbernic devices, whether it's the horizontal small screen RGXX28H, or the flip style 35SP, or the big boy 4-inch screen 40V. Those are my 3 main ones right now.
I have a confession to make.
What's your confession?
I was trying to save this for the next episode. Okay.
You can't do it. What?
Okay. So I don't have it here on my desk.
Okay.
I literally just got it and I started the setup process. I got the Odin Mini.
You did. Wow. All right.
Yeah,
well, good.
yeah,
Congratulations.
I
That's
did.
you couldn't resist the
I
Vita
couldn't.
form factor.
I couldn't. I
I
thought about
totally
it.
understand.
So we're gonna talk about this in the next episode. I told you, like, I finished my process of converting all of my physical games to digital, and I did what I think I mentioned on the show. I have an SD card that I can just move across multiple Android devices. I just put an emulators folder in there. It's got all my games. And so whatever device I want to use, I need to just plug in that SD card. And of course, I still got to worry about like moving saves and custom textures.
Sure.
Especially for GameCube games, I got to move the custom textures. But I literally just use it for 20 minutes today. I think I'm in love. Like, and I love the Odin 2. The Odin 2 was my previous, like, was my go-to handheld for all kinds of emulation. And I sort of knew that, and Brendon has been saying this over and over. Like in many ways,
Sure.
the Odin 2, the Odin Mini is flawed. Like compared to the Odin 2, the battery doesn't last as long. It can be it's smaller.
It's
so
it's less ergonomic.
it's
right?
less ergonomic, but there's something about the mini LED display in a PS Vita form factor that really makes my heart sing. And
I
so
totally get that.
I want to do a nice family photo because now I have a white PSP, a white PS Vita, and a white Odin Mini. And so I want to do,
wow.
I want to do
That's
a nice,
awesome.
I want to do a nice family photo, and then I gotta make a decision. Do I want to keep the Odin Mini? If so, I think I'm gonna sell the Odin 2 because there's no reason why I should keep it.
Sure.
But I tried for like 5 minutes Wind Waker. Man, it's
So good.
Yeah. You play at 1080p, 3x resolution, custom textures, mini on the mini LED 5-inch display. Oh boy.
Yeah, I got to set up some textures for mine. I have actually not done that.
For Wind Waker, you want to download, just Google these, they're free. They're called the Hypatia custom texture pack. You can get 1080 and 4K versions. Obviously, just get the 1080 for handhelds. They were upscaled, I believe, with some kind of like NVIDIA AI, I want to say. The person who did it. Yeah, they're really well done. And yeah, it's a bit of a pain to move from one Android device to the other. Like, especially if you're like, it's not just the saves. You got to move the textures. You got to move, in my case, for example, with Wind Waker, I'm using cheat codes for like widescreen camera controls. And so it's a lot of like copy and paste between multiple Android devices. But that's where Dropbox comes in handy. You can just save everything in Dropbox.
Or Tailscale, I'm telling you, I'm trying to get you guys to start using Tailscale.
If only there was a guide that I could follow on how to set up Tailscale.
Working on it.
Wouldn't that be nice? Huh? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice. Well,
so
maybe by next time we do a show, I'll have.
Okay. All right.
I'll have it.
So anyway, all this to say, I think I'm slowly transforming into an Ayn fanboy. Really?
Yeah.
Honestly? Yeah. I really like what they do. Like, I really like their pricing, their build
the
quality.
quality is right there. The quality, kind of that ratio of quality to price is really perfect because that's the thing with Ayn Neo is very nice.
Very nice.
But you're not going to buy a lot of Ayn Neo products just because they're super expensive. A lot of them.
And what I also like about Ayn is that they don't make too many. They make a few, but they make them well. So
right.
We'll see. We'll talk about the Odin Mini in the next episode because I want to make sure that Brendon is also here. So that
for sure.
All right,
He's the guy. I mean, I don't have one. You know what I've done, Federico? I've created a special section just for Anbernic because we've already started talking about them. But
it's the Anbernic chapter. The Anbernic chapter in each episode. We got to do it. We got to do it.
I mean, they stiffed us last episode. We had no Anbernic news, but they've come back stronger than ever. They've come out with...
Is this stronger than ever?
No, it's really not. It's not really. They came out with a budget controller, which looks a lot like an 8-bit DOE controller.
Isn't it? Are we positive?
Whatever you say.
Are we positive that this is not like a rebranded 8-bit DOE controller?
Personally, I think it is.
Okay.
I looked at this and I have like the 8-bit DOE Ultimate controller, and this one looks exactly.
It really looks like it. Really does. It really does.
Because they have 8-bit does like 2 or 3 different models of that, and if you compare the pictures on the websites, it's very hard to tell them apart. So who knows? But we'll see. So there's that, and then there was also a less powerful RG Cube announced, which is kind of a wild thing. I mean, that was one of the knocks against the RG Cube was that it was too powerful for what it could really realistically be used for. And so I guess Anbernic took that to heart and put a less powerful chipset in it so that it can't do some of the high-end emulation that the other one did, but it should work just about the same for, all the Game Boy and SNES and
Exactly.
all that stuff.
Exactly, especially because like if this is a 1-to-1 handheld in terms of aspect ratio, so you wouldn't want to do 4x3 anyway, like 4x3 anyway with the GameCube or PS2, for example. And honestly, like the first RG Cube was like what, $180? If they can sell this for like less than 100, I think it's a very good deal. I really like this device. It's really ergonomic, really fun to like put in your like to sort of bring with you. It's very small, very compact, nice display. If they can get it under 100, and if you just want to use it for like Game Boy Color, maybe some Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo, I think it's gonna be really fun. And so I think it's a good choice. They should have done 2 options to begin with, if you ask me.
Or maybe not even done the high end one, because I'm not even sure that I'm not sure that higher end one makes much sense anymore.
Mm-hmm. What are we looking at in this leaked document for Anbernic?
It's a two-screen. It's a two-screen Anbernic device, right? It looks like it has a slide-up screen, but all we've got, the leak is nothing but a drawing. It's not actually like
it's a drawing. It's a technical drawing. It's sort of like a technical drawing. But why am I looking at a screen under a screen? It looks like there's a baby screen under the bigger screen. Yes. So to describe this to people, it's like a Game Boy. It's like a shorter version of a vertical Game Boy device,
right?
With 2 analog sticks at the bottom and a square display that you can raise up. You can slide up this display to reveal underneath like a little valley with a smaller display. I think this is the idea. It's weird
because there are two drawings. One of them has sticks, the other one doesn't. Right. And it says not 960 by 720 on the main screen, and I can't make that out. Something by 480, I guess. Yeah. 640 by 480.
640 by 480.
Yeah.
So I guess this will be
DS, right?
A DS. Yeah. What if you could do DS emulation in a vertical handheld, and instead of it being a flip form factor that you open up like the retro, what's it called, the pocket flip that Retroid did, instead of opening it up, you slide up the display to reveal underneath a smaller one.
Yeah.
It's so weird. I'm kind of into it.
It's interesting. I mean, there have been devices kind of like this in a way before, where like keyboards would slide out and cell phones and stuff like that. That's what it reminds me of, except the screen is sliding up. Given the market for Anbernic devices and its competitors, this seems like technically, from a hardware standpoint, a leap beyond anything that they make now, because you're going to have rails and a sliding system that works without disconnecting screens from the underlying board, and I don't know.
On the other hand, Anbernic, they have started getting into, let's say, moving parts with the SP, right? They have made a clamshell handheld. So maybe Anbernic discovered, hey, we can make handhelds that move. And so we did the flip, we did the clamshell. Now we're gonna do sliding. They're gonna try all the orientations now.
It'll be the RGXX 35S for slide.
Oh my!
They'll just put an S at the end.
Yes.
So there'll be the S, the SP, the V, and the H. Those will be the designators.
Oh my God! So the letters, they do have meaning.
Yeah, they do. The V is for vertical, the H is horizontal, and the SP is, I don't know, special.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the H and the V mean something at least. The SP, I'm not so sure that means anything.
All right. We have a fun link from a Reddit thread. I'm not sure. Is this a shipping product? No, this is a Kickstarter. There's going to be eventually a Kickstarter. This is called the Pocket Play. It's a very portable iPhone retro controller. The idea, like, how would you describe this, John? Is it like a case that you can detach one part and it becomes like a controller?
It's like a combination case and controller. It's two pieces. It's a case, and then when you want to play games, you fit this controller over the top edge of the case, and it has I think it has little metallic contacts, and it plugs into.
Like capacitive buttons that.
Well, I don't think it's capacitive. It's actually electric because I believe it plugs into the USB-C port at the bottom of the phone. I
Really?
believe. Maybe I'm making this part up. It's been a few days since I watched this, but then these, what the two that there's a D-pad and four buttons, and they kind of cover up the corners of your phone on the top corners, and that's how you play it. And it's metal. I guess it's aluminum. I don't know. It looks like one of those things that is both brilliant, and I'm not sure if it'll work.
I'm not sure either. The Kickstarter campaign is not live yet, so this is more like a proof of concept. I guess the person who made this is trying to understand: is this something that I can bring to market eventually? It looks like a well done 3D printed prototype at the moment. It kind of looks like that. So we'll see. But I think things are definitely moving in an interesting direction with iPhone game controllers. Now that we have emulators on the iPhone, especially for retro gaming and for on-the-go gaming, like this idea of, let me just fire up Super Mario Bros. On my phone for 5 minutes, right? That's not something that we've had in the what? How many years of iPhone? 17 years of iPhone so far?
Right.
So we are entering this completely new territory of like, what if you could play console games, but for just a few minutes? Because so far what we've had in terms of iPhone gaming were like, you can pair a console controller like a DualShock or a DualSense, or you can buy one of those, like a GameSir G8, for example, and you can attach your phone. But if you just want to play a game for 5 minutes or 10 minutes because you're on the subway or you're just commuting to work or whatever, you're waiting in line at the doctor's office, you probably don't want to whip out a GameSir G8, right? You probably don't want to do it. Yeah. So interesting that, and we're going to talk more about GameSir in just a minute, but I think it's fascinating that people are coming up with all of these new designs that like.
It's interesting to me that it's taken this long. And I think in part of it is the opening up of iOS a little bit. I think is partly to do with that. With the emulators makes a lot of sense because these tend to be simpler controllers, which means they're more likely to work best with things like Game Boy games. Because this device doesn't have like thumbsticks or anything like that. Obviously, it's just a D-pad and buttons. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
A few weeks ago, you sent me a link to a controller called the GameSir Tarantula Pro.
Yes.
The idea being that this is a controller that you can pair with a variety of devices, iOS, PC, Nintendo Switch, and it would change physically, mechanically change the layout of the buttons from ABXY to BAYX to match the Nintendo style by actually rotating those buttons inside the controller with a gear mechanism. And I was very intrigued. So I got one, and I am so bummed to report that I returned it because I couldn't get it to work. I followed all the instructions. I followed like even your updated instructions. I think I got a faulty unit. I think it's what it is. I got a faulty unit that just wasn't pairing with anything. But I am very much intrigued by the idea of what if you could get a controller that you can pair with everything, right? Your Steam Deck, your PC, your iPhone or iPad, your Android device, or your Nintendo Switch, but you wouldn't have the mismatch of the buttons. Because this is something that bothers me so much.
Oh, it drives me bananas.
And I wish console makers would just, sit at a table and come to a decision. Like maybe Nintendo will say, we're gonna adopt the traditional style of A/B ordering of the buttons, or maybe Sony and Microsoft and Valve would say, no, we're gonna change it. They're probably never gonna change it because now everybody's stuck in their ways. So what if And this bothers me so much every time I have a handheld that I want to keep to one configuration, right? To match, I don't know, PC style gaming. But then when I'm emulating a Nintendo console, I got to remember that is B and B is A and so forth.
Right.
And that really bothers me. So this idea of the controller is physically moving the buttons, or it's like physically changing the placement of the buttons, is really interesting. Too bad that it didn't work for me. But
yeah, I actually have one of these coming too. GameSir is sending me one to test, so
nice.
hopefully I'll have more. I'll have more luck than you did with the pairing. I did have a similar issue with the GameSir G8 Plus that I recently tested, where the instructions I don't think were that were written and included with the box weren't really right. And I figured it out, and it works fine. But I really am intrigued by this new button style too, because I think all you do is you press a button or you flip a toggle, right, and it shifts them over. Is that how it works?
And it's so noisy. You can literally hear the gears shifting, like it does that.
That's interesting.
It sounds like a machine. That's what it is.
We know what the G8 Plus does is that the face plates on the controller parts are magnetic, so you can pull those off. And then you can get your thumbnail under there. You can actually pull the buttons off and switch them around yourself, which not as easy as having a button you can press. But GameSir has been obviously experimenting with ways to make their controllers work a little better with different kinds of systems.
Yeah. While we're talking about controllers, I wanted to talk to you about this trend. Maybe it's not a trend, but it's a thing that I've seen this year. This idea of putting a Ryzen CPU, not CPU, system on a chip, it's an integrated CPU and GPU, basically putting Ryzen inside of things that don't look like PCs, but they are PCs. The first one is, what is it called? I gotta get this. This is from a company that I've never heard before. So this is from a company called, it's a device called the Techno Pocket Go. I have no idea who Techno is. I only know techno music. From back in my day. The Techno Pocket Go the pitch is, what if a controller that you hold in your hands was actually a PC? And you may be wondering, well, how would you use it? There's a second twist. What if the controller PC, the only way you would be able to play games is by wearing glasses, like smart glasses?
Right.
Obviously, this product, there's a video by Joey's Retro Handhelds, great YouTube channel that I really like. But it's a fascinating idea. So the idea would be, this is a very chunky controller that has a Ryzen inside, very chunky. It's got a fan. It's a PC. It's a PC.
It is.
Right?
It is.
You're going to boot it up. It's going to run Windows. It doesn't have any built-in monitor. It's got USB-C out. So you either need to connect it to a USB-C monitor, or this device gets sold. It's bundled with this. They're not AR glasses. They are smart glasses, just like the X-Real or the Vitor. These smart glasses that we've covered before. The glasses aren't even that great, but I think there's something to the idea of eventually the power of a PC, something more powerful than a Steam Deck, could be contained in a form factor that is not necessarily a box or a handheld with a screen. And there's another link that I want to bring to the show. This is same idea. It's a Ryzen 7 8080 40U. This is the same one that you can find in the ROG Ally or the Legion Go. Well, it's a variation of the Z1, which are in the Ally and the Legion Go, but it's the same architecture, the Ryzen 7. This is a keyboard. It's literally a keyboard. This is a keyboard that has a PC inside, which is a kind of a funny throwback. We're going back to the days of the Apple II, right? Where the keyboard was the computer, in fact, or the days of the Commodore or whatever. But I think there's something to this idea of, now that this integrated systems on a chip, they can be put into such diminutive packages with you don't even need that much cooling to keep them going at sustained performance. So you have a controller that is a PC, you have a keyboard that is a PC, and in either case, you're going to need to connect some kind of display or some kind of glasses. But in thinking like 10 years from now, I don't think it's too crazy to imagine a scenario in which we're all wearing some kind of glasses that, or maybe not even headsets, but some kind of glasses that can receive a video signal. And so if you're wearing those glasses and you got great OLED monitors always in front of you, would you buy a controller that is also a PC? I probably would. I probably would.
I would too. I mean, what it does is it opens up modularity and gives you ways to use it, right? In different contexts. Maybe you're using them with glasses when you're lying in bed, or maybe you hook it up to a TV when you're in your living room to play on your television, or maybe, maybe you hook it up to a portable display and get some work done, because after all, it's a PC and it can be used for productivity apps too. So I think that is something we're going to see more and more of. I do think, though, that the game development world is going to continue to push hardware harder and harder and harder, especially with all the AI and other things that are coming in into video games these days. That there'll always be a place for more of an integrated solution that's the top-notch, most powerful PC you can possibly get, with lots of cooling, lots of fans, and it's not portable. Whereas these things are going to have to, if they're modular like this, they're going to be best if they are, in fact, portable and can be taken with you, whether you're using the glasses or something else. So I think it's a category that's coming into its own and isn't going to go away. But I also don't think that it's going to take over for, other types of gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I don't think physical displays are going away anytime soon. I think you're still gonna want to have a television in your home or a monitor on your desk, right? If you want to play games or you need to work. But I think what we are witnessing, and the reason why, for me at least, doing this show is so fun and interesting, is all these weird ideas that look so strange today. But if you think about them in the context of the innovation that we're seeing in the tech scene, especially for glasses, coming out potentially within the next decade, I think all of these weird form factors, they suddenly make a lot more sense, right? So we'll see, but I think it's interesting. And
these are ideas that are being explored now by these small companies out of China and other places that eventually the Googles and Microsofts and Apples of the world are going to latch onto and refine. And that's kind of what's neat about exploring this now with these smaller companies, because you're seeing that future evolve in real time. And it'll be cool to see which of those ideas take and which of them kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I agree. Something else that's really fascinating, by the way, another quick parenthesis here. I got my Nintendo Alarmo. It's still in the box.
Yeah.
I haven't had time to. John, this episode is coming out on. It's Tuesday today, right? When people are watching this, it's Tuesday. So I've been busy because I have the new iPad Mini. It's
look at that.
There's a review on Mac Stories. Hopefully, there's gonna be a review on Mac Stories. But yeah, I've been too busy with the new iPad Mini. So I haven't unboxed my Alarmo yet, but I am so excited to do it. I got it from the Nintendo store in Italy, and I just want to bring it to the show, and I want to try and use it as a regular clock, because
in your office there where you record, or somewhere else.
Maybe just put here or something. Maybe just over. Sort of hanging.
I haven't heard much about it from Brendon yet. Brendon, I think
Brendon.
He actually bought
Brendon
his in person.
Brendon is just using it as a clock, at least based on what he said in the latest episode of Into the Aether. So we'll see. What I do want to talk about with you is the announcement that starting next month, you're going to be able to stream any game from your Xbox library, even if that game is not on Game Pass, even if that game was not previously before advertised as cloud gaming compatible. Any game from your Xbox library, you will be able to stream. And on Android, you will even be able to buy games, apparently. And
Right.
I suppose that'll also happen on iOS.
Although
at
I
some
think
point.
Google just filed something with the Court of Appeals in California trying to stop that at the last second. So we'll have to, by the time this episode comes out, that may have changed. But yes, that's due to antitrust litigation going on in California with between Google and that's related to Epic and so forth. But
yeah. But what I want to discuss with you is the bigger
ahead.
topic. The bigger topic of what is Xbox becoming, right?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question.
Because I feel like Microsoft has been on a trajectory to try and move away from the idea that the Xbox is, well, a box and it's the object that you buy,
right,
and more toward a place where Xbox is an ecosystem, but really Xbox is your gaming library that you access in a variety of ways.
I think that's 100% it. I think it's like Xbox is not a thing you play games on. It's a way you play games, right? And that may be on an Xbox console. And maybe someday they'll actually change the name of the console to avoid confusion. But, knowing like Apple and its Apple TV and all of its TV names, maybe not. But in any event, I think you'll still be able to play on a console, but it's clear that Microsoft has decided that Xbox is more than that, and it's about streaming, it's about mobile devices, it's about all kinds of stuff now.
It's about, like, you have Game Pass, you have your physical Xbox. I don't think that's going away anytime soon, and I'm convinced.
PCs, of course, too.
Yeah, PC. So Xbox is also PC. You're gonna have. I'm convinced there's gonna be an Xbox handheld at some point. Microsoft have pretty much said we want to do it. We want to explore the handheld space.
When do you think they're going to do it? I think they're going to do it when it's like the next generation of these systems on a chip, maybe late next year or 2026.
Okay, so something I want to pitch to you and Brendon. I'm just going to do it here on the show.
I know this is like another whole tangent, but I'm curious what you think about it.
I think we should do a prediction episode of NPC at the beginning of the year.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I want to play a game of predictions. My prediction is that we're going to see the Xbox handheld in 2025. I think we're going to see it. Maybe end of 2025, we are at least going to see it. But we'll talk about it eventually.
Okay.
But this idea of, like, you're going to have multiple physical Xbox form factors, right? So you're going to have the consoles and the handheld. You have cloud gaming. You have Game Pass, so you can subscribe. You can, so you don't even need to buy games. You can just subscribe and get whatever is included in Game Pass. Or you can purchase your games. And if you purchase your games, you can play them on an Xbox or you can play them on PC. Or you can purchase those games and you can stream them from a TV, maybe eventually, directly from a smart TV, or from a phone, or from a tablet.
The Game Pass app is available on some smart TVs. I think they're on Samsung and some others.
And I think Xbox has very clearly been behind PlayStation for the past 2 generations, for sure. Including this one, like in the PS4, the whole PS4 Xbox One era was so confusing, and PlayStation 4 absolutely destroyed Xbox. And even, like, arguably, even if the PS5's library isn't as strong as the PS4 at this point, this generation has been so weird for a whole lot of reasons.
Yep.
Mostly the pandemic, of course. But I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that PS5 has more, still, like, a stronger catalog, stronger brand recognition, stronger reason to exist now as a console than the Xbox does. However, when you pull back for a second and when you consider, okay, but over the next 2-3 years, what has Sony showed and what has Microsoft showed and said in terms of their direction, and I think Microsoft, in terms of, like, looking at the horizon and how things are changing so quickly, I think Microsoft will ultimately be better positioned for the more flexible type of gaming that we're going to do 3 years from now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the signs are all there with its acquisitions, and it's, a lot of it's focused on mobile gaming as well as, but it's got, it's got a lot of traditional AAA titles because it's got such a big studio behind it now. I mean, it's been a hard year. They've let go a lot of developers, which I think is a shame, but they absolutely are setting themselves up as company that delivers the game to your doorstep, whether it's,
Yeah.
right? No matter what kind of game that is. I think they're pointing at running the whole gamut, which I don't think Sony is actually kind of going the opposite direction. There's no longer a handheld available from Sony, and maybe it's not going in the opposite direction in the sense that they are starting to explore, making their games available on PC, for instance. So they are expanding into that market a little bit, but it's a whole different level when you talk about Microsoft right now, I think.
Yeah. Obviously, the dark horse in this scenario is Valve. I
Yeah.
will be shocked if Valve, after the success of the Steam Deck, I mean, obviously, Steam as a store is an incredible powerhouse right now.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
Steam Deck has obviously been a resounding success for them. I continue to believe that the moment that Valve decides to get serious about streaming, both locally and cloud-based streaming, that's potentially going to be a huge problem for Microsoft's vision, right?
Yeah. I wonder if they team up with somebody like NVIDIA. I could see that working for them, because GeForce Now,
That's an interesting angle.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of the problems GeForce Now has always had is its catalog has always been a little thin. It's a lot better now because they have a deal with Microsoft, so it's improved quite a bit over the last 2 years or so. But if you were able to get your Steam library through GeForce Now, that would be a whole different ball game. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. And also, I know that while we're talking about the future here, I know that they've tried this before, and maybe it was too early, but I still think that given how things have evolved, right? We just talked about the idea of putting Ryzen systems on a chip inside smaller boxes. But I still think that the idea of a Steam box, right? A Steam console that is more powerful than a Steam Deck, and you put it under your TV or under your monitor, and it's much more powerful than a handheld, but it's got the Steam ecosystem and it's got the user-friendly Steam Deck UI. I think it's the ecosystem, the industry is more mature now than it was whenever last Valve considered the idea of a Steam box that you could put under your TV. I think there's something here, and I think going forward, I'm much more interested in whatever Microsoft and Valve end up doing against each other than, say, Sony's. And Sony's vision is just you buy a PlayStation, you stream your games from your PlayStation console. We do have a cloud streaming service, but really nobody cares about it.
Right.
Whereas I think, and obviously Nintendo is doing its own thing. So Valve and Microsoft, from my perspective, are the two companies to watch.
Yeah, I think the thing with Valve that's going to be really interesting beyond just the Steam box that you're talking about would be whether they start working with third parties to roll out SteamOS to other devices. Because I could really see a 2025 that's very much a Valve 2025, where Valve starts doing that. They license SteamOS, and so other manufacturers like Ayn start making SteamOS boxes, Asus maybe too, and others. And then they come out on the heels of that with something you put under your TV and follow that up by the next generation Steam Deck. I mean, those three pieces, if done kind of in over the course of 12 to 18 months, could really, really make them competitive with all the other players in the industry.
All right, so we have a mini topic of sorts. It's a follow-up from a listener on Mastodon. What is this about, John?
So this is someone who had a question for us about the Ayn Odin 2 and the Ayn Odin 2 Mini in particular, because they were evacuated during Hurricane Milton here in the U.S., I guess, and spent that time hacking a PS Vita, and also own some of the Anbernic devices.
Okay.
But wanted to kind of get our take on what is it about the Odin that really, really, what's the allure of the Odin more than anything else to us? What is it about that device compared to these others, whether it's the cheaper retro handhelds, the more expensive Legion Go's of the world, and Steam Decks, or something else?
Really simple emulation with great specs to emulate up to PS2 and GameCube.
Yep, I
That's
agree.
that's the thing.
It comes down to a combination of the hardware and Android. Android, if you've used this person has used Anbernic devices before, and you can use those as they come out of the box. I have been doing things like, as we talked about before, installing muOS on them, which becomes very fiddly. I mean, you end up spending a lot of time because you're dealing with micro SD cards, having to flash them with software that's kind of janky.
And you're dealing with Linux. You're dealing with Linux.
You're dealing with Linux, and it's just slow because micro SD cards are fairly slow to copy things. I was doing this while I was watching TV last night, and I watched like 2 or 3 episodes of a TV show, of a like half-hour sitcom while I did it, because it just takes a long time to move these files around. So, that's a little fiddly. Android, a lot of this stuff you can get right on the Google Play Store. You can also find sideloading stuff that you can get if you really want the cutting edge. So you're not really giving up that kind of tinkering aspect if you want it. And it's more flexible because you can get all the big games that you could get on other platforms. Mobile games are available on the Google Play Store, and you can stream. So it's kind of a combination of all those things to me.
Yeah. It's very simple to emulate. It's very simple to get your emulators on the console. Obviously, you got both on the Odin 2 and the Odin Mini. You got great displays for different reasons. The Odin 2 because it's bigger, the Mini because it's mini LED, so it's really vibrant. It's got its own issues, but it's really vibrant, really colorful.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, things like Dropbox make it super simple to move your files around, much more simple than having to flash files across and move them using, Raspberry Pi software and stuff like that.
And also, like, you just got a ton of power that you can throw at emulation, right? Because this emulation is obviously CPU intensive, and here you have really powerful CPUs, and you can just it's a situation where with this kind of emulation, you just need to throw as much power and RAM as possible at the problem. And so that's why you can play a GameCube game, for example, at 3 times its original resolution. I mean, potentially on the 7-inch Odin Portal that we mentioned, you even be able to do 4x the resolution. So you can bump up the resolution, you can play them in widescreen, you can install a custom texture pack, and it's just gonna run at 30 frames. Some games have even 60 frames mods that you can install. You just have a ton of power because of the Qualcomm architecture of Snapdragon in a comfortable ergonomic package. And so you could do the same things with the Steam Deck. And I will argue that a Steam Deck is sort of in between the Linux, the Anbernic experience, right? And an Android experience, because with with the Steam Deck, you can switch to the Linux desktop. You do have a package manager. You can use something like EmuDeck, for example, to get your emulators up and running, but it's still not as easy and user-friendly as just firing up.
It's more work. It's definitely
more work.
Yeah.
It's even the Steam Deck is more work. So the appeal is it's ergonomic, the pricing is right, the screens look great, and it's got Android, which comes with its own benefits in terms of installing apps, bringing the files that you own with you using Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever, and just moving things around. You can log in with your Google account, then you have your Google Chrome profile, so you can sync your tabs from your desktop to your Odin. It's just very convenient. I wanted to mention quickly before we go, John, how I have been converting my physical game library to a digital format. So this is now a 160 gigabyte folder that I keep in my Dropbox. So I did PlayStation. No, let me do in order. Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Nintendo Wii. I think that's everything. No, DS and 3DS, of course. Yeah. So basically, almost everything up to the GameCube. I still have my PS2 games at my mom's house,
I was going
And
to ask about PS2. How about Wii games? Have you done Wii?
I've done Wii. Yeah. Wii.
Okay, I thought so.
GameCube and Wii. At my mom's house, I still have PS2 and Wii U. I don't have a modded Wii U, but I could do it if I want to. I did this in a couple of ways. For cartridge base, so for Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and the 3 generations of Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, I used a device called the Open Source Cartridge Reader. It's by a Japanese company called Save the Hero Builders. That's the name of the website. It's a custom board with a bunch of slots. It's got a teeny tiny OLED display that you navigate using these buttons. And it's got these switches that you need to pull, and the switches control the voltage that goes into the cartridge, right? And so you just follow the instructions, very easy. You press a button, you rip your cartridge, it ends up as a file on an SD card that is into the cartridge reader. Then when you're done, just take the SD card, you plug it into a computer, you find your file structure by platform. So you find an SNES folder, a Game Boy folder, and you just grab your games, right? And you just put them whatever you want to put them. So that took me about half a day to do all the cartridges. Then for PS1, that took me a whole day, because PS1, those are CDs, right? I had to use a CD drive with my Mac. And I had to use, what's it called?
Did you have one, or did you have to buy one?
I bought one months ago. I had to use a terminal command, John, that is called... I can send you a link for the show. I don't see if anybody wants to attempt this.
Yeah, that would be good. Did you get the Panasonic one? I had a Panasonic external drive.
I think I have a Panasonic one, yeah. I use a terminal command called CDRDAO.
Okay.
You need to install it using Homebrew via the terminal. It's very fancy. And then there's a blog post that I can send you. You just put this in, you run the terminal command, you end up with 2 files on your desktop, and it's very slow because reading PS1 discs with a CD drive, very slow.
It's like ripping movies. It takes a long time.
Takes a long time, and so I was, putting a CD in, going back to the kitchen to do something, and then coming back every 20 minutes and putting in a different CD. Especially for like multi-disc games, like Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, that took forever.
How does that work with emulation when you have a multi-disc thing?
You just emulators have a command to say swap disk, and you just load a different file.
I haven't really done any Sony emulation, any disc-based emulation.
Nice.
So
yeah, it's not. It's basically the equivalent of back in the day when you reached the end of a disc. The PlayStation will tell you, open up the PlayStation and change your disc, and you would do it. And so it's basically the same idea. For DS and 3DS, I have a modded Nintendo 3DS, and I used it's basically once you mod your 3DS, you just put your game card in, and you just say save to file, and you wait. It's very fast for DS games. For 3DS games,
takes forever.
Especially Pokemon games.
Oh God, it takes forever.
It takes forever.
Yeah, I did this too. It was like a day and a half thing for me almost, because I had a lot of 3DS games, and you're right, those Pokemon games and a few others were just brutal because they took forever.
And finally, for GameCube and Nintendo Wii, I used my modded Wii. This is the Nintendo Wii.
The OG Wii that was moddable.
This is the Nintendo Wii that I bought in high school in 2006. I went one day with a friend of mine on his scooter. We went 2 people on a scooter, and it was just pouring down rain. So we got to my friends, the video game store guy friend that I have in Viterbo. We got there.
He's been going for a long time.
Yeah, man, I've been going.
Store.
I started going to that store in Viterbo.
Yeah.
Store used to be called Extra Ball. That's the name.
Okay.
And it's a reference to. Do you remember like you call it pinball machines, right?
Yeah.
In
Right,
Italy,
right.
in Italy we call them flippers. That's what they're called here. So,
Okay.
and you would get like whenever you got an extra ball, you get like an
Yep.
extra turn, and so
Right.
that's the name of the store. I started going there in 2001, I want to say,
Okay.
when the GBA came up. I was
Wow.
so anxious to get my hands on a GBA. I didn't want to wait for the European release. And so I remember I started calling this guy, and I wasn't friends with him. I was 13. I started calling him on his landline at the store
Yeah.
for like a week. Like, do you have the GBA? Do you have the GBA? Because I ordered one from Japan.
Oh.
And I was like, do you have it? Has it arrived? Has it arrived? I was like, no, Federico, I told you it's still not here. Eventually, by the 6th or 7th day, I don't remember, the guy was so fed up with me calling, asking for the GBA. He was like, you know what? You know what we're going to do? You're going to come here. I'm going to sell you mine because I already got mine. I just opened it. So it's an open box, but it's basically new. I'm going to give you mine because you want it so badly. And so, yeah, shout out to Marco for, still kicking at the video game store, still doing his thing. But anyway, we got to the store in 2006 with my friend, and we were soaked. Like, we were just completely, it was raining so bad, and we were going down on the scooter, from my high school. We actually, back in the day, once you turned 18, so that was 2006, you could just basically say to the teachers, you could sign a little document yourself. Otherwise, if you were underage, you would need your parents to do it for you, to say, my son needs to get out,
go to the doctor,
or something 2 hours before closing time. But because because my friend Ricardo had turned 18, I don't know how, but basically we just at 11:30 a.m. we just went to the store on the scooter, and we were soaked. And we got there, and Mark was like, "What have you guys done?" It's like, we need a Wii. So I got my Wii.
Yeah.
We went to Ricardo's house, and I remember we played with Wii Sports for like 24 hours straight. I told my mom, I'm going to sleep over at Ricardo's, and we're just going to play Nintendo Wii. And I back in the day, I could pull it off, stay up for 24 hours. I could do it, and we did it. In the afternoon, we invited our schoolmates over. It was a whole thing, man. That Nintendo.
Oh, I bet. Wii Sports is perfect for that too.
Yeah, that Nintendo Wii. 3 months ago, I was visiting my mom's.
That's the same Nintendo Wii.
And I saw in one of the closets, I saw a white plastic thing, and I said, "Mom, is that the Wii?" It's like, "Yeah, all your." She said, "All your junk's in here." That's what.
You're lucky that thinking it's junk, she didn't throw it in the garbage.
So I got 3 months ago. No, it wasn't 3 months ago. It was last year. I got my Nintendo Wii. I tried it. It was still working. I modded it. You can just do it. There's plenty of guides. Modded it, and that's how I have been able to convert my GameCube files, my GameCube discs, and my Wii games to a digital format. GameCube games, you can do it in 10 to 15 minutes. Wii games take forever. Zelda Skyward Sword, Super Smash Brothers, like 8 gigabytes on that slow.
a lot of art assets in there.
But that's.
What's funny to me is this is the reason to get the first gen of any Nintendo product, because they almost always get cracked at some point. They get jailbroken.
Yeah.
Same with the Switch, right? I mean, you have an OG Switch.
I have an OG Switch. I have it. I have an OG Switch that is modded. But yeah, so that's that's a fun story. I hadn't told that story in a while. Yeah.
Good. Well, that is a great story. Wow. Well, I think we got to wrap it up there, Federico. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, you know what? Next time around, we expect Brendon will be back. In the meantime, be sure to go over to wavelengths.online to check out his writing and to check out his YouTube channel, because he's been doing a lot over there. He has a review of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom up that's really great, both in video and written form. And of course, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. We are on Mastodon. Just go to vitici.macstories.net and johnvorhees.macstories.net. And we're on Threads and Instagram. Federico is at Vitici. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you in a couple of weeks, Federico.
Can I just say one quick clarification before I go?
One clarification.
I said scooter, but I really did mean the Italian stereotype. We went on a Vespa.
Oh, yeah, of course you did. Well, scooter and Vespa, that's synonymous. I assumed you would. I'm glad you wanted a Vespa, Federico. That's
all right,
good to know.
cool.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, everybody, now that we can sleep well knowing that Federico is an Italian who rides a Vespa, that I hope...
in the rain to go buy a Nintendo Wii.
Was it in the colors of the Italian flag? I suppose probably
No,
not.
it was gray. It was gray.
Oh, well, just a standard Vespa. That's okay, though. At least you're on a Vespa. We will talk in a couple weeks, TJ.
Talk to you soon.